Okay, grandstand, come on! Tosun Rua! Tosun Rua!
In the Pacific, in our close and often joyous communities, there's a scourge. While no population on Earth escapes its grip, gender-based violence is wreaking havoc here in our region.
He will have his hands over my neck trying to choke me.
In many parts of the Pacific, more women have experienced abuse from a partner or man in their life than haven't.
365 domestic violence cases for the last
A military
5
officer in
months.
Papua New Guinea who was captured on video violently beating his partner.
But this isn't just a story of victimhood. Armed with their experiences, women and their allies are speaking up,
Every day we can't sit back. I will speak up for them.
demanding change from the men in their lives, for themselves, their sisters, and their children. I'm Alice Lolo here. The Pacific has embarked on a multi-country investigation to understand the causes of gender-based violence and find out what's working to combat it. Join our team of all-female reporters as we explore the strides and setbacks on the road to a world where the right to safety is a reality for everyone.
We met in church.
What was he like at first?
Oh, well, he was so sweet, handsome. Well, anything a girl could say. I don't know what happened to him that makes him change from a good person to that bad person.
Clara left her husband in 2019. Before that, she says she endured years of brutal violence. One incident left her hospitalised.
Who took you to the hospital? My father. What kind of injuries did you sustain from that one incident?
I had fallen jaws this side. I was swallowing blood. I got my tooth actually fall. I got bruises on my body too, my face, black eye.
In many Pacific villages, victims face unique challenges that can stop them leaving abusive relationships, like poor access to support services. It can also be taboo to seek help from outsiders or the legal system to deal with family issues.
My parents always tell me, just let it go. Let God do the rest.
Well, a call for action into the ongoing issue of domestic violence in Fiji has prompted investigation.
Here in Fiji, domestic violence is widespread. Studies show around 2 in 3 women in intimate relationships have been physically assaulted by their partners. The depth of the problem was brought into sharp focus at the end of April when 3 people died over a single weekend in 2 separate alleged domestic violence incidents.
I'm still in shock. So shocking that in one weekend we have lost 3 women to domestic violence.
Our reporter Lide Movono met with Shamima Ali, one of Fiji's best-known crusaders for women's rights.
Shamima, how are you?
I grew up in a home that had domestic violence. I myself am a survivor.
She is also the long-time director for the Fiji Women's Crisis Centre here in Suva. She says Fijian society is still deeply patriarchal.
These are systems that are male-dominated, and that is the reason why when violence against women happens, people do not treat it as a crime, that it is a very serious crime. People get murdered within this. Religion and perceived cultural and traditional practices and attitudes contribute hugely to that.
The Crisis Centre receives roughly 50 women a week, providing counselling, legal advice and shelter to those in need.
With the Crisis Centre, we have pushed the boundaries And we have never let anything stop us. We have just stood up for whatever we believed was right.
The centre's been at the forefront of change both here in Fiji and across the Pacific.
There have been quite a few changes, but we still have high rates of violence, and that is what we have to address.
Yes, if you looked across the Pacific, you could say that gender-based violence rates are high. However, there is diversity across different Pacific nations, and different Pacific nations will have different particular issues they want to deal with.
Associate Professor Yvonne Crichton-Hill says domestic violence has multiple drivers. Issues like poverty, unemployment, as well as cultural norms that promote men's superiority over women. Then there are factors like drug and alcohol addiction and abuse.
Even a lack of skills in relationships. So, for example, not being able to manage conflict in a healthy way, or maybe individuals and families have had experiences of family violence themselves.
In PNG, many of these factors are disproportionately present. Poverty, for example, is endemic. According to UN Women, more than 1.5 million women will experience gender-based violence here every year. Our reporter Belinda Kora is on her way to an urban settlement on Port Moresby's fringe.
The roads are not good. There's electricity and water supply, but it's just not helpful at all.
Hello.
She's here to meet Lorena.
Do you still live in fear? Yes, definitely. He seems to be a very nice person, and then the next minute is a wild animal.
Lorena says her estranged husband, who still appears at random, has choked her, wounded her, and broken her bones over many years. She also says he burned her house to the ground. Lorena still recalls her daughter's screams.
Mommy, the house is on fire, the house is on fire. So I ran down and all the doors were on fire. I was traumatized. My energy was all drained out. I didn't know where to start. We had nothing. Everything was lost. For me, it's really hard. It's hard because I cannot mend the pieces together. I'm trying my best, pretending that I'm okay, but I'm a broken woman inside.
Her story is not uncommon.
In the settlement, I think, like out of every 100 women, 99 of them goes through violence. But they don't open up, they don't talk about it. I don't know, they're taking it as a normal thing or something.
In February, 23-year-old Margaret Gabriel was raped and murdered in a settlement outside Port Moresby. A killing Prime Minister James Marape described as inhuman and barbaric. She was one of 3 women killed in the capital that week alone.
I've witnessed women die. I've witnessed little girls being raped. I've witnessed women being tortured.
These clients, these survivors rather, they are highly traumatized.
Dorothy Koch helps women like Lorena escape violence. She started a shelter and a hotline.
For many of them, they may need life skills training, right? And for many, they need financial support.
Most women go back because they are not the breadwinner. The husband is the breadwinner. So we worry about the kids. How are we going to feed them? How are we going to clothe them?
Some traditional practices are also deeply patriarchal. For example, men in PNG may pay a bride price to their wife's family, meaning some victims won't leave their abuser because they've been paid for. Lorena says police sometimes tell victims to return to their abuser.
Because of the bride price and everything, and they say, no, you have this, so you have to go back. And I go back and I ended up dead. That's what is happening to a lot of women.
A spokesperson for PNG's police told us the force had recently sacked officers accused of domestic violence and took a zero-tolerance approach to the issue. However, he conceded police played a mediatory role between alleged perpetrators and victims in marriages where a bride price has been paid, adding that resourcing remained an issue too.
Did you ever try to go to police or to the courts to get your partner charged? Every time I brought him to the police station.
Lorena says at one point he was charged, but ultimately released on a good behaviour bond.
I'm writing statements here and there, going to the police station. They're telling me to come back tomorrow. We don't have fuel for the car. All these things. It's also traumatizing me too. I'm thinking the law is there to help me and it's not helping me, so what's the point for that?
In recent decades, laws in many Pacific countries have enshrined greater protections for women and harsher punishment for abusers. But changes to the law mean little if police and courts don't enforce them. In Solomon Islands' capital, Honiara, our reporter Chris-Rita Almanu-Leong spent a day with 2 female police officers working in their domestic violence unit.
Hello.
Bride price is a common practice here as well. Constable Leah R.D. told us some men think because they've paid a bride price, they have the right to do anything they want.
Lolo him no allowed, even if you buy a woman and finish, you no got him right for you have kill him or one him. But you have teach him the way where some fellas have understanding, but for you bashing him or for you killing him, you not allowed for doing.
2 out of 3 women in Solomon Islands have been physically abused by a partner, and more than 60% of men think it's acceptable to hit a woman in certain circumstances. These female officers sometimes feel like they're swimming against the tide.
Some male colleagues or some by looking or some other cases blood you woman you wrong, yeah? You should know provoking man or you should not do other kinds of things.
So telling me come when you may go this time and what sort of case na or one na story behind place where by me go there.
The police tell us they're going to serve a notice to a man who breached a no-contact notice filed by his wife.
Olo blame na huya.
He unfortunately was not there, so we'll head back to the station now, and from there they'll make calls for him to come in person at the station. For these 2, they say these are some of the challenges that they face while attending to some of these cases.
Constable RD told us that while abusive men can be issued with a cease contact notice of 21 days, many female victims will return to the station later asking to have their complaint withdrawn.
Sabe requesting back respondent for come back. One falana is respondent no mahem only breadwinner or sole winner for Oketalo family. Yeah.
Growing awareness around gender-based violence has seen many groups spring up to help victims. Some are even working with perpetrators. In Samoa, our reporter Adele Fruin met with one man who took part in a court-ordered counselling session run by the Samoa Victim Support Group. Benny says that one night he and his wife were arguing. Benny says he hit his wife and his sister then reported him to police. He says the court-ordered program helped him reform his behaviour and eventually reconcile with his partner. Family violence is widespread in Samoa. In one study, 9 out of 10 people reported regular abuse in their home. Benny is one of few men held accountable. According to a national inquiry, 90% of gender-based violence is thought to go unreported, with nearly as many victims believing their abuse is normal, and more than 2/3 of them believing it justified. We spoke to many victims who downplayed perpetrators' culpability, suggesting factors like stress, financial strain, or alcohol were the main causes of violence. Less than 2 hours outside of Samoa's capital, Apia, our reporter Adele Fruin is in the village of Samusu.
Awa ole te le yo le whaafitauru na le tupu sa mo taimini. Masalo ele to ta fa ilo ele sunga le te le ole to manga te le ole tamaiti sharta te le ta mama o tangata ma fana ta ma pui ma fuesa wanga.
63-year-old Moe Pitolau is a representative for the Samoa Victim Support Group.
Me fo ilale ole ani me tu po tele no nofo.
She says progress has been made, but old attitudes here are hard to change. She told us a story of one woman who learned her daughter had been sexually abused by her husband, the girl's stepfather. This is just one example of the pervasive culture of silence. Moe's daughter Malia says she was once assaulted by her husband. She's since reconciled with him, but she has struggled to speak openly about what happened.
O ke le iaro fo'i le poki o ngalo keiloa o le vā lava ma ua mwhaianga ngā koe fufoe ma ua le vā lea.
Pacific nations are also grappling with the complex ways colonization has upended gender roles. The brand of Christianity that colonial powers imported is often deeply patriarchal.
Awa le upuaia tuspai o tō tane a. Toa lofa ya o toa ya o mako fo ila ia ilonga.
Back in Fiji, the crisis centre is grappling with a new trend: online abuse. Lawyer Stephanie Dunn says it can take many forms: bullying, harassment, stalking.
Whatever is happening online is mostly a reflection of what's happening offline. And the more we minimize what's happening online, places the survivor at high risk.
The issue was thrust into the public consciousness when the Minister for Women, Linda Tambuya, was sacked from her ministry in December after an explicit video of her was shared without her knowledge or consent. Police are investigating how the video came to be circulated online.
The moral brigade is out in full force, and the third person is her. Not the person who's sharing, but her.
That is her choice. The sharing of it is who we should have targeted. Who took the video? Who shared it to a public platform? That is who we're supposed to be targeting.
Our reporter Lele Movono met with Ms. Tambuya in the halls of Parliament.
I was just dismissed, and very, very abruptly, without much explanation. And so, you know, it was like I felt I was being punished twice.
The Fijian government hasn't responded to questions regarding her dismissal. Ms. Tambuya was also the victim of relentless cyberbullying and harassment after the incident.
Women are targeted 10 times more online than men. We continue to perpetuate the patriarchy and the discrimination online which existed offline. Sorry. You know, it's the first time I'm speaking up about all of this after a few months. That alone, you know, is an indication of how the effect of what has happened.
How are you dealing with it? How are you coping? I can't even imagine.
Yes. I have family, you know, I have my spiritual foundation. I believe in a loving God that shows grace every day. I must continue to press on and advocate for the things that they have trusted me to do as a national leader. And that's where my strength comes from.
Having women at the decision-making table is really important, because seeing who is at the table at a policy-making level actually demonstrates to the rest of the community that women have value.
Professor Crichton Hill says having women lead responses to gender-based violence is crucial. She also says studies show Indigenous values can be leveraged as strengths.
Values around humility, reciprocity, and views about women that actually hold up women and empower women and see the value of women. So it's those kinds of values, and also responses to gender-based violence need to be attuned to the cultural setting and the cultural context. It means educating families in a Pacific way about the impacts of gender-based violence, and providing families and communities with the opportunity to talk about how they would like to respond to gender-based violence.
We had a front row seat to one such initiative. La is a counsellor with Fiji's Crisis Centre. We're headed on one of 60 similar visits she conducts to villages each year.
Why are we going here?
It is part of our program. We have already done the workshop for the women. We have to go back to do follow-up, to check on the changes.
As we've seen, attitudes in villages can be particularly entrenched. La has been working with people here to try and change problematic attitudes towards women and to hold men accountable for violence and abuse. Gathering in the traditional meeting house, La uses open conversation that respects village culture and the authority of leaders. Attendees can then pass on what they learn to others. At first, it's clear some issues remain. One man mentions a couple who aren't in attendance. The woman had been hospitalised after being assaulted by her husband. But soon, evidence of progress.
Yo ho no vole buni same zakana bulingo mi vara mata ki me zago bikito rodana ke bise usara ni tromo di kor sasi randomo kuna marama aba tonga ni ngone landona bisolevo ekota me na vuli ava zoro bikito na ni tromo di kor ya utranga eliu Au sini ndunge pati ni tuna me karo ndunga ngai siwa na kabe. Ina ngono go karo san ndunge pati tuna le siwa. Tanda tomani ko tuna no ndo ngole tuna le siwa. Karo le sumai. Kyo kai ndo ngole pati na marama. Ni ngole ange ndo le simoka au sa butara tuna izo nikito na huto si te bioka.
They may not seem like radical changes, but these are the first steps towards recalibrating cultural norms that have in the past seemed unshakable.
It is very important for us. It is important in the sense that we change the mindset of the men.
Like so many of the women we've spoken to, for La, this work is more than a job, it's personal.
I'm a survivor of domestic violence. Talking about rape and even child abuse, as a survivor of child abuse, it's really hard for me to talk about it. And self-talk too is also helps me to keep reminding me that this is not you, this is about them. And you are trying to help other women not to go through the same that you have gone through.
La and women like her are on the front line, grappling with an issue that has no easy answer. We cannot shy away from the violence happening in our communities, but it is also clear the solutions must start in and be led by those communities.
The dove that flies with one wing can't go too far. When both the wings are working, then it flies better. And so, women have so much to contribute. Women contribute so much. So that recognition and the respect that should come with it, I think that is very important.
There are lots of women going through this problem. So if I am going to be strong to help them, I'm going to use my example to help them. So that keeps me going.